Hi. Hey guys. Welcome to another episode. No, a bonus episode of the Game Theory podcast. We are going to be talking about the summer book / game club, Chrono Trigger, one of the best games ever. We have two guests with us, almost as always for this. Tim and JT, the brothers Eberhard. What's going on, dudes?
Hey.
Hello.
I'm
Hi,
JT.
and also,
It's all about me. I have hijacked the show.
Welcome.
I did not tell you to speak. My show. Mine.
The JT show?
The JT show. The JT Theory podcast.
The J-
I did not tell you to laugh. Sorry, go ahead.
this,
It's your
yeah,
show. I'm
so,
giving it back.
thank you. Your hijinks were unacceptable here. Hijinks were unacceptable. Dude, I had, speaking of which, quick caveat, one of many, I'm sure. I met an Olympian. Don't know if you guys know that.
I
Oh,
saw
wow.
that. She was all up on your junk.
Yeah, well, that happens. But no, like there's this Olympic runner, right? Like, and Amy's nuts about this runner. But when I get up there, I don't really, know her that much. I'm like, whatever. And so when I get up there, I'm giving everyone shit. Like on the USA team, I was like, one of the guys was like, he's like, hey, and I was like, are you running today? He's like, yeah. I was like, how long have you been training? He's like 6 weeks. I was like, I've been training 7. Do you do elevation training? He goes, yeah. I mean, I have. And I was like, did you do it this time? He's like, no. I was like, I did. And he's like, that's cool. And I was like, you should watch for me ahead of you. Like I was just giving them all shit so that they would like. I was just being a douche. But then when I got to her, I was like, okay, like, she's the real deal. And I put down my little bib and I was like, hey, can you sign this? She's like, yeah. And I was like, just write, love my inspiration, Jeremiah. Thanks. Just sign your name. And she goes, I'll do it. And I was like, are you kidding me? She's like, no. I'm like, yes. So on my bib, I ran with the little number, and above it said, my inspiration with a little exclamation mark with a little heart on it. And it was like, Shalane Flanagan. And I was like, get some. It's awesome. So trolled some Olympians, but
Like you do.
Good work.
but that's not what this is about. This is about Chrono Trigger.
Yes.
Okay, hey,
Not
while,
because-
while we're talking about Olympians, question. I had this asked to me on my blog the other day, and I didn't really have an answer. Do you think in our lifetimes we will see an e-sport in the Olympics?
No.
Mm.
Next question.
Okay.
That's what
How about
this
that
show's all
Chrono
about.
Trigger?
That in-depth analysis. Was Chrono Trigger a good game? Yes. Next question.
Okay.
Yes. Next. Done.
Efficiency, gentlemen,
I
efficiency.
don't know, David. They got a visa. Like some gamers got visas already to be here on like a work visa for.
Oh yeah, lots of league players do.
Yeah.
See?
That's a far cry from Olympics, though.
Not far actually, because the athletes it was under like the athletic little like you're in and out. So it was one of these like monumental like case changing things. But as far as like the public acceptance of it and then loopholes, yeah, I agree. There's a big difference between those. But like, yeah, you got a legal loophole.
For
but-
whatever reason, throwing a javelin is more acceptable as a sport than playing League of Legends. But it's July 7th. That means we've all finished Chrono Trigger, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I got one of the endings, and I remember the one I got last time, so I've only seen 2.
Did anyone else get any extra endings? I got all 13 on my DS.
You know, when I was
What?
in high school, I got all the endings.
Not the 13th. It's a DS
That's the
exclusive,
truth.
bitches.
I know. I've actually got to look that up. Like you said, it connects Chrono Trigger to Chrono Cross.
Yes. But first, let's start off with Zeal. That's where we left off last time.
Zeal. Which one was that? That's
Magic
is that
Kingdom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where Shala and Magus are from.
So,
Oh man,
thoughts?
all the feels. First of all, awesome. A floating thing in the clouds. That was on Lunar. Remember Lunar Silver Star story?
Mhm.
Silver
Yeah.
Star story. That
Nash.
sounds weird. Nash. In the floating city of like magic and not Gandalf. What was his name? Remember the I'm watching you.
It was Galleon.
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 Yeah, another epic
And
name.
Vane was the floating city.
Vane, that's right, yeah. Great game, man. But that reminded me of this. I love the floating city thing for some reason. I love that shit, especially if it's like shackled with a chain like that one was back in the.
I'm actually the
Yeah, that was-
same way. Like floating cities, no matter what the game, the movie, like it kills me. Like in Lunar, the one got me. Zeal, I
Mhm.
loved in Chrono Trigger. In Guild Wars 2, in Wizard's Fife, there's a floating castle like right off the coast. That's like not just part of the
Sweet.
map. Like you can look on the map, it's a 3D thing, but like you can't get into it ever since the game's come out. Like no one knows how to get in.
Well,
Ah,
then
that's
in
cool.
World of Warcraft, they have Dowling City in Final Fantasy VIII as well, like the school.
Oh yeah, they did.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
and
So it's a recurring, it's a motif, I guess, or
technically, Transylvania, that castle, it's not floating, but it appears and disappears. Depending on the moon cycle or whatever legend you're going on.
I wonder
Why
if it
is
goes
that?
back to Castle in the Sky, the Japanese movie 1986 from Studio Ghibli. You guys ever see that
oh
one?
yeah,
I
yeah,
was
yeah.
about to ask you if like this has some basis in previous literature.
Yeah, like Castle in the Sky, House Floating Castle. Like it seems like a very Studio Ghibli kind of theme, and I don't know. There might be some sort of influence there, especially with Akira Toriyama being one of the main art directors.
But that dichotomy that they did with Zeal in the Underworld, I mean, that's been done 100 times, and especially in current literature. Like, did you see that Matt Damon one? I think it was called, where he's a machine and he goes up into literally the city above the earth, and he basically gets all this medicine for these people who need it and goes back down. It's like the proletariat and bourgeoisie idea.
Was that
and then there's one with
Elysium?
Tom Cruise. Yeah, Elysium. Yeah, and there's one
Yeah,
with Tom
yeah.
Cruise where what's it called?
Oh wait, wasn't that
Oblivion or something like that?
Yeah, something like
Oblivion.
that.
And that's somewhat similar. Like, and man, District 9 was kind of like that, except
Well,
vice versa.
I mean, we've been there before with the Morlocks and the Eloi, right? Like the Morlocks are the Earthbound ones, and the Eloi are the kingdom, the magic users, the people up in Zeal.
Yeah, but I
Yeah.
think you found the direct tie there, David, with the Toriyama. I mean, that makes perfect sense. And of course, Studio Ghibli is incredible as far as RPG influence is concerned. So yeah, I think you called it.
Now,
That was
I just like to leave the map. I just like to wander around up there in Zeal without even going into cities because I just love the overworld theme up there so much. It's got like a weird sitar and it
Yeah.
just sounds very kind of like transcendental. Like, oh yeah, this is really chill.
Okay, hey, do you know what accomplishes that in terms of music theory?
Why does that happen?
Okay, so the difference between a major chord and a minor chord is one note. At their base, they're what's called tertiary chords. There's just three notes. The bass note and the top note are the same. So if you have a C major chord, you have C, E, and G. In a C minor chord, you have C, E flat, and G. So the C and the G are the same. The only thing that changes is that middle note. That's what flavors the chord. So to achieve that open kind of listless sound, what you do is you just remove that note entirely. So you stack a chord like C, G, and then another C on top. So it's still a C chord, and it still has the roundness of that top note. It's called the fifth. But you lose the flavor of the chord. It just feels kind of open and unresolved, but not in a dissonant way. But there's a lot of those in that theme, and they're arpeggiated. So it's just like one hand spelling them out all the time. So it never really feels full. It sounds like it's driving. So there's your music theory for the episode.
Sounded fun, and that's cool because Magus, we learned in this section of the reading, Magus is from this area, and his
Dun,
theme
dun,
is all
dun.
about that, like those broken chords and that kind of feeling of dissonance, but amplified to the point where it makes you feel uncomfortable. But this one actually made me feel peaceful and tranquil.
Is it Janus or Janus, and is it Shala or Shayla?
I say Shala and Janice.
Yeah, me too.
I do the soft days because it sounds more ethereal.
Yes,
That
Shada.
made me super nerdy. I think it does. That's awesome though.
And the
Man,
music is designed expressly to make you feel at peace, but that nothing is perfect. Because if they wanted you to feel perfect, they'd come up with some kind of dissonant chord, like a dominant chord, and then resolve it to the tonic, which is like the bass note. You get to the end of the song, you're like, oh, this is the end of the song. You just know that's because it's the tonic note. So what they're doing is they're not putting any dissonances in, which feels very, very peaceful, but they're also not flavoring the chords. So everything feels kind of mysterious, but still like not dissonant at all, which is exactly what Zeal is supposed to be.
Yeah, it's supposed to feel like a bubble that's about to pop, like the housing market. You know, like it's perfect, but it's not perfect. It's not gonna last forever.
It's perfect. Too
So-
perfect.
Too perfect.
Not
No,
only do
it's
they
funny.
convey. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, mine. Reiterate.
Oh, I was going to say, not only do they convey the mystery through the soundtrack, but also there are mysteries within Zeal itself, like the Earth, Wind, and Fire in the books, and you're finding all these hidden doors and all this good stuff, right, Chip?
Yeah.
Water summons wind, wind makes fire dance. I remember that.
Yeah,
That's,
yeah.
Like in the back of my head, like when I first walked in there and I opened up the book, and all of a sudden, unprompted, in my head said, "Water summons wind, wind makes fire dance." I was like, "Yes, I remember this."
Yeah, and it feels like the whole thing is like a mystery to be solved because I mean, like when you get there, all of a sudden you're like, the fuck? Because you just played a game that's sort of medieval sword and sorcery kind of feel
Very
to it,
black
right? I
and
mean, a
white,
little,
good and evil.
yeah. There was knights, where the guards at the lean square, like, you get, kings and queens, monarchies, and all of a sudden you're in this weird place with like glowy streets, and you're like, what the hell? And you walk around, and like people are kind of mysterious, but also it just feels like you said, the music, something about it makes you feel like the fuck I want to be. It's almost like a succubus or something. You're like, I'm down with this, but I'm concerned, you know. So I only got one of those secrets, by the way. I was looking at the walkthrough after I finished it, and I was like, God damn, I missed a bunch of stuff. But I got one with what did I get? Some kind of treasure chest. But there's another one you can fight News.
Yeah, the News.
Yeah, that's right.
The News boys. But that was cool.
And then, spoiler, like, Magus isn't bad. He's not a bad guy. Well, at least he
Magus
has
as a kid, and you find out why he's such a. Oh, did anyone else have a huge crush on Shala when you were a kid playing this game the first time?
Yes.
Freaking loved Shala. I was like so concerned about her. I was like, "Come on, Janice, we gotta find out what happened to her."
But they do a good job of making Shala another plot point, and they turn it into a whole other game.
Yeah, that's weird. That really is like it's almost like two completely different games smashed together, because you get the one with the triumph over evil where Magus is involved, you know, like you get this guy who's summoning a huge ancient evil, and you go and you overthrow him and you win. But then you also get like the kind of, you know, this two worlds against each other. Well, actually it happens a lot, but anyway, this whole other one of like, oh no, this thing is in and of itself is born inside of the earth, and it's coming out, and it's this alien, and it looks really weird, and I don't know why, but anyway, and then it's, you know, it's the world against that thing. So it really felt like two completely different plots. It's almost like in FF8 where it all changes after the ice blast of Squall.
And that's another trope in RPGs I've noticed, like Shining Force. Shining Force, you fight all the way through to beat the bad guy, and it turns out there's another bigger bad guy. There's like this whole other game fighting him. Also, Final Fantasy IV, Golbez. He's the bad guy the entire time, and you finally beat him. You're like, yes, I stopped this shit. And then you find out there's like Zeromus, like up on the moon, fucking everything up even worse. Like I love it when you have the escalating tiers of bad guys. It's not like just Dragon Warrior. We're like, okay, there's the Dragon Lord. We killed him. That's the end of the game.
It's interesting too, the name of the Kingdom of Zeal. Zeal means like, you know, zealous. Like I'm so into something. I'm devoted to it. I'm ambitious. I'm willing to see this through the end. But when you get to Zeal, it's almost like you're on the island of the Lotus Eaters from the Odyssey, where everyone's just super relaxed and just chill, and they're taking naps and they're dreaming all the time, and they're very almost drugged. Like they're, except for the Queen and I guess Dalton and the gurus, everyone is almost kind of like lethargic. It's like the opposite of what you expect from a Kingdom of Zeal.
No, Dalton was the first Team Rocket. He was such a goof, but like still, you kind of want to kill him. He's a dick, and he stole.
He had a very punchable face.
But you get the idea that this kingdom, like we're talking about dystopias and utopias, like this feels like the result of a lot of hard work and sacrifice. Like these people crafted the perfect world out of magic, and then all their material needs were met. And they're in a post-scarcity world, right? Like it's like Star Trek with the replicators. Like they don't need things anymore, so they can just spend all their time doing nothing, just dreaming. It's almost like what would happen if we, you know, perfected virtual reality and just spent all our time inside the game. Like it's very much kind of a world where they've left conflict behind, but they might have left something about being human behind too. That seems to be the struggle of the kingdom.
Okay, you know what I just realized? Like when you talk of utopia and dystopia, like if I'm ever in a character, like when I get to the future for the first time in Chrono Trigger and it's this huge dystopia, or like any dystopia in a game or a book, I'm walking around like, yeah, I believe this. This is not suspicious. There's like some bad guy and like, yeah, we gotta fight back. But I get to Zeal in like a utopia, I'm like, something's fucking wrong here. Like I don't trust the utopia, but I trust the dystopia.
Well, there's no place for a hero inside of a utopia, and so I think that maybe part of it is it's supposed to feel like you're not needed or wanted, or something's disquieting, I think, because when I show up as Chrono, I'm like, sup bitches, I'm here to save the day, and they're like, day saved, what are you doing here? And I'm like, oh, I don't even know how to get home now, I'm sad. And so, like I was going around looking for fights. You end up fighting News, you know, just for the fuck of it. Like you don't even need to. So I think that's that it's almost like you know, it's like the kind of the trope of like the retired paladin in town who's, you know, well past his years and settled, you know, like the grizzled war veteran. Like he has no place in like a postmodern society.
That is something I liked about Zeal, though, is that they give you a while without having to fight anything, and they just carry the game on the plot alone, and it really does make you feel peaceful. Like other games, Shining Force, all the Final Fantasies, like there's plot and then there's a fight. It's a very repeatable formula. And here they just give you a long stretch where you don't fight anything. There's nothing to fight.
That's a good point. The driving factor for me purely was curiosity. Like you get there and you're like, "What the fuck?" And so I'm just clicking. I was talking to everybody, even that stupid nude's like, "Scratch my back." Like,
yeah, you're
off,
the secret scratch pod, and you're telling like the woman to like not burn the tree, and you're just like going around interacting with things. You're like the whole kingdom of was it Anhasa or Kajar, like the one that was just off to the side. There was really no reason to go there except it was like, oh, this is where they develop technology and magic. This is cool, and just kind of explore it.
Mm-hmm.
And you also learn that they were solar powered before that. There seems to be a recurring motif in Chrono Trigger that the sun is a benevolent force. Like later on with the Sunstone, we have that come back.
Oh, right, right.
But then somebody mentions that they turned away from the power of the sun, and the queen banned further research on the sun because she found a new energy source. So it's kind of like this overreaching, this kind of Lucifer, son of the morning, why did you fall kind of thing, where it's like you're in paradise. Why'd you have to go and like reach for something even more than that? Like it's this kind of hubris.
Yeah, and with Magus and Guardia, 600 AD, they were always talking about the dark moon with him.
Mm-hmm. And the black wind. So you have these like kind of nature motifs that keep coming back, and I think there's something to that with the purity of the sun versus like, I don't know. It's like you have so much already, but the queen wants just a little bit more power. Lavos.
I wonder if it's not exactly the queen; it's Lavos driving her because he wants that life force. He wants to suck it all out of the planet.
He wants to suck it up.
Yeah, and you find out that that's the Mammon machine is made out of that same dreamstone that you spent so much time in the last chapter trying to get, and which is also what the Massamune's made out of. So that kind of ties all the time periods together through this one frame of the Mammon machine and the Red Rock.
It was so brilliantly done. God damn, it's just
it's so cool that like, and I love the idea of like you get the fatalism, but then you insert autonomy through time travel, because without time travel, without Chrono, well, I guess Chrono, well, spoiler from ahead, you don't necessarily need him, but without the party, because like we said in the very first part, it's more of it's a story than it is like a hero-driven journey, right? Chrono kind of doesn't matter in the end, and so
he's like he's like the fulcrum, like it's everyone else's story. He's just along for the ride.
Yeah. And so I think it's really cool that like you can disrupt like even the most obviously impossible like things to kill fatally, like through fate. Like you get Chrono and he fights all the greatest enemies across all the time, and then finally gets the experience to finally take on Lavos. But otherwise, without that time, it couldn't have happened.
There's even they specifically call that out, that whole fatalistic question, like is fate something we can fight against? There's a Poyozo you find in one of the secret rooms in
Poyozo.
These little Poyozo dolls, and he says like all life is destined, we cannot fight fate, something like that. And then she says, do you agree? And if you say yes, she's like, it's true, fate is an all-powerful force. And if you say no, she says, that's right, we can still change our destinies. Like no matter what you say, she agrees with you. So it kind of like further like kind of clouds the issue.
Dude, if you think back to the beginning, I mean, Chrono did start it all off because he bumped into Marley. Like, what if he hadn't done that? I mean, he set off all the events, though. So, I mean, yeah, he's along for the ride, but the ride wouldn't have even happened without him.
Yeah, that like further calls into question, like he's not the hero. Like I totally disagree, and I think if you take him out of the hero's journey, it's really more about Frog, Marley, and Luca, and I think everybody else is along for the ride, like Robo, who gives a fuck, Ayla, who gives a fuck. Like really, it's about those three, and if you take
Robo has some great story points. I love Robo.
Go fuck yourself. He's a robot. But like he's got a laser.
I didn't know there was anti-robot bias on the show.
We need to round them all up and send them off to Zeal. No,
make sure you have robosexuals getting married and all kinds of things.
Robots marrying
Let's keep him open and see what makes it tick.
But if it's true, then this is more of a feminist tale than it is anything else, because the two people with the most agency, besides Frog, who's actually fighting against his own curse, are two females. So,
were you surprised the first time you found out who the prophet was?
Yes.
Oh,
absolutely.
The first time, yeah.
But then again, we were all in high school. But I think like anyone else would still be shocked too, because like as far as you know, Magus is gone. He's done with.
Yeah, it was really cool to find out. Like that's why he's been such a dick to us. Like he's been working against us this whole time, and he's been using his knowledge of the future to seem like a prophet. Like it was a really cool twist. I remember being like really excited when I first played that part.
Yeah. Yeah,
very
and they did such a good job of making you feel for Magus. Like they did such a good job of making you hate him, and then like so quickly they redeem him, and believably so. They don't force it. It's just wonderfully done.
Yeah, and you
Yeah,
find
and
out who these old men figures are who got sucked away. These gurus of reason, time, and what was the other one? Life.
Life.
Well, I was gonna say light. Yeah, life. Yeah. And I like how it doesn't insult your intelligence. Like they have people right in front of you, like the guru of time, you know, and you could figure that out. You know, I didn't when I was a kid. I might have been stupid, but you know, because you're at the end of time, you'd think you'd figure that out. But I just thought he was another flavor character. I mean, you get Poyozo dolls for God's sakes, and weird, you know, the wrath of or the god of war. That's actually just like a weird little doll, and then it morphs up. I just stopped questioning things at that point. So as a kid, it shocked me, but it's easily discoverable. So when you get it, you get this little joy. It's almost like humor, where humor's about going one off of what everyone else is already thinking and then bringing them to a new place but not too far away, not going so crazy that it's just weird. And so I think it's the same thing here. It's a satisfying experience because you think that you've learned something from it.
They do a good enough job of being abstract enough to really make the player feel like they're really not at home. Like they make them question everything about themselves and make them uncomfortable but still curious.
Yeah.
I really like the world they crafted that way.
And yeah, they give you not easily, but solvable puzzles, right? Like of things like Zeal, how it happened. Like there's a lot of mysteries in there you can figure out.
But
Magus,
not like
you know,
Resident Evil where you've got to go all over the fucking world to get like 4 things to put in this one door. Like there's one puzzle, you want to move on to the next place, but it takes you 3 hours of dick fucking around.
I hate dick fucking.
Yes.
Yeah.
The gurus themselves had it was interesting their names, right? Melchior, Gaspar, Balthazar, the traditional names of the 3 Maguses, the 3 Magi.
Yeah, like this is in Japan. What the fuck? Like, why are we having like biblical references? Not even biblical references, but like the names they were later assigned.
Yeah. But it's good because if you're paying attention, you can see the connection between Melchior the blacksmith, Gaspar at the end of time, the old man, and Balthazar in the. You can catch that connection before you realize that there are 3 gurus from Zeal just through the names.
But it does show how eager the writers were to incorporate other pinnacles of literature into this. Like it's not. This is not a Saturday morning cartoon. This is a legit story that had a lot of thought and expertise put into it.
Right, like if you read the Mystery of Life stuff that you find those books in Zeal where they're talking about like all life begins and ends with new. This is my truth. This is my belief. Or like that comes right out of like early Egyptian kind of. Like it's just all tied in there. Like the word "new" is an old Egyptian word that means water. And so the idea that life began in water and ends in water is very like ancient creation myths. Like every myth has these floods and like the earth coming out of a void of water, or just science like we believe life came out of the sea. Like there's a lot of levels going on in Zeal, and taking that complexity after the simplicity of the Middle Ages is just a really cool juxtaposition.
Man, I remember playing Chrono Trigger as a kid, and when I got to Zeal, actually to turn it off and go to school. And I think I was playing before class, if I remember right. And then all day I just kind of wondered what was going on there. So I kind of revisited that childish wonder when I came in here, and with the music and everything and it's playing, I was like, mother of fuck, I love this game. It was just this awesome little moment.
So you go to interrupt the summoning of Lavos, and it goes poorly for you. Janus's prediction, "One among you will shortly perish," came to pass. In fact, in the DS version, there's a cutscene where Chrono's like rushing up to Lavos, and then he flashes back to like Lavos opens up his little like laser face and starts shooting you, and then it like flashes back to like Janus and says like, "One among you will shortly perish," and it flashes back to that scene, and he gets evaporated. It's a really cool like little cinematic.
The workaround of that is so stupid. I forgot that until this one. But anyway, we'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah. So,
So Chrono dies, game over.
Yeah, and you can actually beat the game right after that. You don't have to bring Chrono back.
Yeah, and I actually remember that ending. Like the ending is that they go off, looking for a way to revive Chrono.
Yeah.
I don't know how you do that. Like I tried because I was like, okay. At first I was feeling ambitious and I thought I'm gonna get a lot of these endings. I never thought all 13 because one of them involves a DS. But I was like, let's do this. And so I tried to fight it. Fuck that. Like you've crashed the Epoch straight into it and you break through its shell, which is sweet. You get around that first outside fight. But then you're in there and you walk in and the first hit kills everyone and it happens immediately. I was like, well, that's not happening. So
yeah, actually, more of a New Game Plus kind of move when you're higher level.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
But
can you get any of the other endings on the first run through without New Game Plus? I don't think you can. You have to legit.
I think there's only 2 endings you can get. Like,
the one where you die.
You can either get the one where you don't have an epoch and you float away on a balloon with Marley, or you can get the one where you have the epoch and you're flying around through different time zones.
Oh yeah.
Which is basically just 2 variations of one ending.
Yeah.
Well, there's like 5 different variations of that first ending. So, but I got the first time through. I've never beat it without Chrono, and now I want to. But because I was like, obviously I got to revive Chrono, because maybe this is part of being a Westerner, but I consider a hero's tale, right? But now as I'm looking back at it a little bit older, I'm kind of like, no, it's not a hero's tale. It's about a group of people struggling. Chrono is kind of irrelevant, but back then I thought, well, you can't possibly beat this without Chrono, so I never just went straight with Magus and then did the Dark Energy route, which is amazing, but I just went with Chrono Antipode 3.
Well, they made it kind of interesting too when you meet Magus on that North Cape, where it's like, all right, I'm kind of a dick, but now you know why. I was trying to rescue Shala, and you're like, yeah, I feel kind of bad for you, and we're like, well, we're gonna go try and rescue Chrono. And he's like, yeah, that fool got himself killed. He was an idiot. And you're like, oh, now I'm kind of pissed at you again, and you're remembering that, especially if Frog's in the party, it's super awkward. You're like, kind of want to kill you now.
They're giving you motivation to click yes when he asks if you want to fight.
What happens if you click yes?
You fight him.
Kill him?
Kill him, yeah.
What? Oh, I always click no because I was like, dude, that guy seems cool. Because, my first time through, I played it, and I thought, I instantly drew this parallel, and I was just a kid, so I could be way off, but I was like, wait a minute. I see what they did. I think that they're, like, you did all this, like, bad shit to get Marley out of Fucktown, right? Like,
yeah, Guardian.
Yeah, Fucktown. Dude, you see porn. No, I don't know. But there's like, you help her through different time series, like you constantly help her, but you're constantly doing it against the will. In fact, one of the endings is you get, like, the ending that I saw was you get absolved. They're like, oh, hey, your stay of execution's over. Come get fucked. And you're like, no, for helping her out. But that's exactly what got Janice in trouble, because of Shala, right? He's trying to help her out. So I think it felt like a parallel between the light and the dark, lightning and the dark energy. And I was like, well, shit, your Shala is my Marley, so. Yeah, I have to let you come. I can't kill you now.
I'm about to put a question up on Atheist Gamers. Like, for those of you playing through Chrono Trigger, did you fight Magus?
Yeah, because if you do fight him, and I fight him sometimes, it just depends on how I'm feeling when I get to that part.
I'm feeling dickish.
If you fight him, though, well, no, it depends on how much I want Frogs to have a happy ending, because he ends up turning back into a human in the endings if Magus is dead.
No way!
Yeah, you see Glenn back in his normal form.
Oh, but is it worth it? Like, killing, like, kind of a hero.
That's the moral dilemma. Like, do I kill this guy who's kind of a dick and kind of an anti-hero, or do I get to give Frog, like, closure?
This game is so complex.
Glenn looks pretty badass in his human form, too.
He looks way better than Squire Glenn. He's all, like, heroed out.
I'm looking it up right now.
Do it, dude. He's got his own, like, sprite set and everything, and it looks badass. He's got, like, a sword on his back.
Yeah, it's like a huge sword, and he's all ripped. Now, did you guys? What do you think of the being captured by Dalton and, like, the whole prison break? Like, that's, like, the most common cliche of any story where you have to break out of a prison and you don't have any of your equipment. Like, how do you think that was handled?
I mean, it's cliche for a reason. Strange to me.
Felt weird. I didn't like it.
Yeah, something about it felt awkward.
Yeah, I think it was weird that, like, you throw in, like, stealth sequences in general have to be very carefully handled. At least that's something we've learned nowadays. I mean, look at, like, Castlevania 2, which is or Lords of Shadow 2, which is a good game, but the only thing that really made it really shitty was I'm Dracula and I'm sneaking around. I'm goddamn Dracula. Like, you sneak around from me. But and same thing here is I'm like, yes, I'm Chrono, and they're like, take your sword, and I'm like, I don't give a fuck. I will kill you with lightning. And they're like, you can't use lightning. Why? And they're like, you just can't.
You just can't.
It just feels weird. Like, it was clearly forced in there, and I was like, Chrono doesn't need that shit. And Isla, like, soon I just switched out for Isla and just killed everyone.
Yeah, I had Isla on my team because I was using her to charm magic tabs off everybody, because at that point in the game, all the bosses drop cool items, so I'm just, like, charming everything. So I was like, oh, that's fine, I'll just punch you with my fist, because that's what I do. I'm Isla.
Yeah, okay.
Punch.
But the cool thing, the payoff for that, is you get the epoch finally with wings, and that opens up a whole bunch of cool stuff.
True.
Plus, it just
That was
You
the
fight on
second
the top
prison
of
break
it.
in the game, though. Like, your first prison break, you break
Yeah.
out after they throw you in jail, and, like, you break out like a goddamn boss. That was fun. Like, yeah, why can't we do that again?
Well, they remembered to take your sword this time. First time they were like, just leave it. It's just a wooden sword. He'll be fine. It's an iron sword or whatever you're
It's
up to
New
by
Game
then.
Plus. It's actually the Rainbow Sword, the greatest sword in all of eternity.
Used to be.
No, man,
You
I
just
fought
hang
Gato
on to
for
that.
3 hours, and I bought a load sword. So you get the load.
You get the mother load.
Take my load to your face. But I think, yeah, and the fight on top of the epic was so cool. Like, there's just so many cool moments. Clearly, like someone was just sitting around and like, oh, that'd be cool, and just added this into this game.
Yeah,
That
and
was
it's
a
like
lot.
press the Y to shoot lasers. You're like, really? Are you serious? And you never get to use those again. But it was so fun. I was like, yes, lasers.
Yeah, you don't. It's just a fuck up.
But back then, that was actually a huge thing. You know, back then, just coding, like, you were so limited by the hardware, like, just coding in the fight system alone was enough. And so to actually put in something that you only get to use for one fight that makes the fight feel unique and special, like, you didn't really see that in a lot of games. Chrono Trigger was the first one I can actually remember doing that.
Yes. And then the cool thing is you can beat the game anytime after that, but you get a lot of side quests. Each character gets their own little story arc that gets resolved. So did you guys
Except
do that?
Chrono.
Yeah, except Chrono, who is not really. Well, his story arc was like getting back to life. Like that was his side quest. Getting the Chrono Trigger, bringing up that
not dead anymore.
By the way, I feel bad for any of our listeners. Apparently, the iOS and Android version of that game is just a nightmare on Death Mountain when you're trying to negotiate the slippery slopes.
Oh, it's bad on emulator too. Like I was using an Xbox controller, and the Xbox's controller is really good about doing diagonals. But as you know in that game, there's no such thing as diagonals, and so my character kept doing this little spaz thing. What?
Yeah, you can diagonal.
What the fuck? Mine won't let me diagonal. I even clicked the "Let Me Diagonal" button on the emulator.
Well, it works on the DS.
Yeah, you actually have to bind those specifically on a lot of emulators. But yeah,
I think
there
I
are
did.
diagonals.
I worked with it for a while. God damn you, fucking Chrono Trigger. Yeah, that was
almost
shit.
PhD working out for you.
Oh, not very well.
Flashback. If any of you can buy it on the DS, I'd recommend doing that because it's the best way to play it.
That's not happening.
So you bring Chrono back. Luca's thing was really cool, but you got to bring back that forest, and then you get a chance to save her mom. And depending on what translation you're using, the code is like her mom's name to turn off the machine.
Mm-hmm.
Lara.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yep.
And then Marley gets to resolve her thing with her dad with the Rainbow Shell quest. Glenn finds closure with the Ghost of Cyrus on the, where you cleanse.
I remember that scene from back in the day. That was goddamn awesome.
It was so awkward because
and that's where
Magus
you
was
get the
lower.
better that's where you get the better mass immune, right?
Yeah, the fully powered mass immune.
Yes.
Because it was super awkward for me because Magus was like the only one who had techs left to learn, so he was always in my party getting those tech points. And so we get to that point, and we get to the grave, and it says, "Here lies Cyrus, the fool who challenged Magus." And it's like Frog and Magus in the party. I'm like, oh, yeah, this is super awkward. Sorry I was a dick to your friend. Put him in this grave and call him a fool. But even Magus has like his own little resolution where you go back and beat up his underlings who kind of took over after he left.
The Aussie tower one?
Yeah, Aussie Tower, where Ozzy just keeps getting shat on by all of his contraptions. Ozzy's in a pickle.
Yeah, those aren't really optional, by the way. I tried to go straight. First, I went straight into the shell and died, and I was like, yeah, I don't think that was the way I did it. Because I got in the epoch, and I was like, it's a lot of curiosity in this game, or just exploration, but I was like, click, click, apocalypse. Well, yeah, and so I clicked it, and I just, like, it shows it run into the, like, I thought I would do like the rest of them where it's like, that's not a good idea, but instead they're like, okay, and they just flew it straight the fuck into the shell and blew up, and I was like, well, I'm stuck now, good thing I saved my state earlier, because goddamn, this game is unforgiving. And so, yeah.
Okay, so question. Did it seem to you guys like RPGs back in the day, like you had this big map, but they were pretty linear, like Final Fantasy IV. There was always a place you needed to go to next, and that was the goal, right? So then Final Fantasy VI and Chrono Trigger come out. Final Fantasy VI, you have all it's kind of a linear story, but there's all these open-ended things for you to do. Like if you explore the map, you can get 2 extra characters. You can find all this other shit that you wouldn't ordinarily find. And it seems like Chrono Trigger now becomes the same way. There's still this linear plot, but there's all this other shit that you can do and all this other game left to explore, and it becomes a lot more open. Can you think of a game that did that before these two?
Yeah, they're both similar
Dragon
in that
Warrior.
Final Fantasy VI kind of the game really opened up after a certain point where you could just beat it at any point, but there were all these extra side quests to recruit new characters if you wanted to. But I don't know. Someone's probably shouting one into their phones right now, but I can't think of one before those two.
Yeah, Dragon Warrior had a little bit like Eldrick's Armor. I don't even think that's
Yeah,
part
Erdrick's
of
armor.
part of the quest. But because normally you walk in there and you're like, Star Wyverns and whatever they were, Gold Knights, get fucked, and I just leave. But if you just really persist there and like keep, man, I can't believe you couldn't reload save states. You just have to run, and eventually, if you can like make your way through and keep running, you can get this one spot, search it, and you find Edric's Armor.
Yeah, you actually
But-
have to fight like a really difficult axe enemy there too, but you can beat him prematurely and get the armor. I did it myself. It was in Hawksness. That's the town. It's destroyed.
I can't believe we did that before save states. Can you believe that? Like I would
Yeah.
repeatedly lose to that guy.
And
Me
also,
too, man, but it was worth it.
there's like a cursed armor or something, like a cursed necklace. Like it tells all the items in the instruction booklet. We never ever found like the cursed necklace or whatever it was, and it turns out like it's in the game, but you have to like fight like this particular enemy. It's got like a 1 in 250 drop chance or something, and it's not even good. Like all it does is curse you, and you can't take it off, and it sucks dick.
It sucks dick. Oh,
It's
I won it.
terrible.
That sounds useful.
But yeah, it's not really so much of an open-ended like
Sounds
side
hot.
quest. It's just a pain in the ass of something bonus you can find. Like in Chrono Trigger and Final Fantasy, like if you explored other parts of the map, you actually discovered other plot points that enriched the game. And I can't think of a game before that did that.
Yeah, I love just flying around the Epoch, going, "That's a weird island. Can I go in that cave?" And like, "Wow, it's
Yeah.
the sun. It's the sun cave. What's this for?"
Oh,
and like just random
There's some
stuff like
stuff
that.
in there. Totally worth it.
It
Actually,
was
I have
the
a
first
commentary.
Skyrim.
What'd you say? What the fuck
It
did
was
you
the
say?
first Skyrim.
Oh, the first Skyrim.
It felt like it, man. You run around, you go into a cave you cannot beat yet.
Dude, it might have been like the start of it, 'cause I can't think of another game that put in that kind of effort beforehand. Before that, it seemed all RPGs were linear.
Now on the iOS, the Android and the DS versions, at this point in the game too, there opens up these extra dungeons that you can go into. They're like these rifts in time, and you find such great gear there. But you also fight like yourself. You fight one of the bosses is Chrono, one of them is Marley, one of them is Luca, like a shadow of them. When you beat them, they fuse with you and give you a huge stat bonus and just a bunch of great gear. So like there's a lot of extra, and there's also a reptile village with a bunch of extra quests you can do. Just like running around, fixing bridges, fighting news, like clearing out monsters. Like it just adds a whole bunch of content to the end game that's really fun. But what that also does is it got me to level 80, which was useful because it unlocks a final boss. So let's talk about Lavos.
Yeah.
What did you guys
He's
think
the
of the final form? I know a lot of people had trouble with that.
Yeah, fuck Lavos.
I didn't think it was actually that hard a fight. It was pretty standard. And actually, like I remember back in the day when I played it, like I stomped his ass first time. It wasn't that hard. It was just a long fight.
Well, it was complex though. You couldn't use magic to hit everybody because it would heal the left pod.
Yeah.
The left pod
Yeah.
gets healed by magic, so you have to kill that first by physical attacks. Then you have the right pod in the center.
The right
thing.
one's healing it. The right one does that heal and then does a resurrect where it goes vulnerable for physical for a bit, but
Yeah.
it resurrects that shit. God, it's so annoying.
It was
Yeah,
annoying.
and,
It was a
and
long
you think
fight.
the middle guy is the main guy, but you kill it, and then it turns out the actual main Lavos boss is that little right pod. Like that's the Lavos that you're fighting. The one that just resurrects things and occasionally like covers you up in rainbows.
And
The first
honestly,
Rickroll.
like what we talked about earlier, with the fight with Dalton, they gave you this thing that you couldn't do in any other fight. And yes, Lavos had a unique mechanic, but I don't know. It seemed like that fight was almost lazily designed compared to some of the other fights in the game.
It was. I remember the Grandstone, the ultimate physical attack that would instantly wipe out Luca and Marley because they just didn't have the physical defense to take it. And then he had like an ultimate magic attack. He had a status affecting attack, but by that point I was immune to status effects. But like it was a complex fight. But luckily you have 14 mega elixirs by this point, so you can you can power through it if you need to. And I found myself weirdly. Maybe you can talk about the psychology on this, Jeremiah. Even though it was the last fight of the game and you know it's the last boss, I found myself super reluctant to use the mega elixirs. I was like, oh man, I guess maybe a mega elixir might be worth it. I've got 14. There's no way I need that many.
And it's the last fight. It's obviously the last fight.
Yeah, no, I mean that just scares me. I mean, it's because what if it wasn't? Fuck that. I mean, like all RPGs, geez, like you kill Lavos and you're like, oh, it's just a shell. And then you go in and you're like, God. You use a shelter inside and you go in and then there's another one and you're like, oh, that's it. Or first you fight the two queen What's her name? Queen Slutbag. I hate that.
Yeah, if you go through the Black Omen, you fight Queen Zeal, and you fight her
Zeal.
hands and her face.
Yeah, and like I burned like 3 megalixes there, and I was like, well, I'm fucked. And I had like 14 left or something. It's not like I was that low, but I instantly was like, I can't use any, and so I actually started like doing what I hoped not to do for most of the game, which was reload the state and try to learn from it retroactively, because I was like, I gotta beat this game before we do.
And
this
you can
episode.
actually charm prism dresses and prism helmets off of Zeal in that fight. So you can get actually more than one prism. Like, I always look back on the bestiary. There's like the little bestiary that tells you all the bosses you beat. I'm like, oh, I could have charmed that. I could have charmed that. And so then on New Game Plus, I was like the Isla Charm Squad. That's all it was, charming everything.
Okay, so you fight Lavos is another one. Now you got to fight an additional boss, David.
Yes. So if you go through all this extra 3DS content,
you fucking dick, sit in your
you're the
tower,
worst.
fucking nap.
then you fight actually something called the you go through this dimensional vortex, and it takes you to some place called the Darkness Beyond Time, which is like at the end of time. It's just darkness, and you see Magus there. He's like a version of Magus, because Magus is in my party, so it's like a different timelines version of Magus. And he says he's from a timeline in which Lavos was defeated, so it takes place after you defeated Lavos. Okay. And then he's like, yeah, but there's this creature called the Dream Devourer, and he's emerged, and he's been feeding on dreams and memories and thoughts. And you're like, oh, that's where he's like, don't worry, I'm on it. And so he jumps into this time gate and tells you not to follow him. So of course you follow him, right? Because you're like, no way, Magus, I got your back. So you jump in after him, and you see what's called the Dream Devourer, and it's this crimson Lavos with like this crystal on its head, and Shala's in the middle of it. And so it's this kind of fusion of Lavos and Shala, and it's floating, like Shala's floating this kind of bubble over Lavos' eye. And so Magus is trying to fight it, and he's like begging Shala to wake up, and then the Dream Devourer just blows him off the screen, and then you rush forward and fight him, and that fight is hard. Like, I was level 80 and had the best gear in the game, like 3DS exclusive gear from those dungeons. He killed me the first time I fought him. I had to go back and reload it. But you finally beat him, right? And because I'm like, you know what? I'm using Mega Elixirs. Now I'm glad I saved him. Now I'm glad I saved him.
Fuck this guy.
So like we fight him, and you kind of beat him, but then he like blows you all away. Like he just like rallies and blows you all back, and you lose the fight. But then Magus jumps forward again, the one from the alternate timeline, and Shala wakes up from her trance, and she tells him that. So remember the last time we saw Shala, she used the last of her power to get us out of the Ocean Palace as it collapsed. And she says that like because of her despair, like Lavos fused with her, and they became this entity that's all it cares about is destroying all of space and time. Like it's just about the void. It's all about despair and the void.
Sick.
And then she says like, you can't free me. There's nothing you can do. This is beyond you. And she like sends Magus away. Like she warps him away. And then like the Dream Devourer just moves on, and like you don't defeat it. You don't win. And then the next scene cuts to Magus waking up in Guardia Forest. And he's just kind of like, well, he's floating in the darkness first, and he says, like, so no matter what I do, like, my efforts are futile. I can't save Shala. Like, that was everything I had. Like, we didn't even scratch it. And so he erases his memories in hopes of starting a new life. And so he wakes up in the forest, like, unknown. You don't know what – it looks like Guardia Forest, but I'm not sure where he is or when he is. And all he has is this vague feeling that he's supposed to be looking for something, and then he departs. And then it shows
Dial in Chrono Cross.
Yeah, because then it shows 1005 AD, the fall of Guardia. So like Chrono and Marley get married, they become king and queen. This is like the standard ending. But then 5 years later, freaking Dalton, who by the way is in the he's in the extra dungeon. Like he got sucked into a vortex and ended up like the final dungeon boss. Like he ends up in Pori Village and like raises up an army and just wipes out Guardia. So in 1005 AD, like Dalton and Pori Village wipe out Guardia, and the last thing you see is like some figure with the Masamune fall, and then it says like the Masamune gets taken. It says the Masamune was stolen or disappeared, and then it just like is the end, and that's it. Like you don't know. It's setting up the game for Chrono Cross, but it's like the weirdest ending because it's just so unresolved.
I really want to play Chrono Cross now. Like I really want to replay Chrono Cross.
Yeah.
Because I remember like the plot being really convoluted, but like now with all this in my head, I want to play it again.
Yeah, it definitely fills in some of the gaps, and that whole Shala thing, because we know that she gets found as a baby at some point. So how'd that happen?
Okay, question: do we need another Chrono Trigger game? We have Chrono Cross. Did Chrono Cross wrap it up?
I feel like Chrono Trigger was resolved at the end. Like I felt like, especially the standard ending, I felt like all the storylines, it felt very connected. I would love to see them do like what they're doing in Final Fantasy VII and remake it with better graphics.
Yeah.
but I don't think I need to explore that story anymore.
Was Chrono Cross necessary?
I don't think so. When you talk to the game developers, they said that they wanted to tell more stories, but not necessarily resolve old stories. So they kind of created new conflicts to tie into it, but they didn't need to.
Okay.
Yeah, I think for a really good like trilogy or even a follow-up, like a sequel, you want something. It's almost like the either the developers or whoever's telling the story, a DM or whoever, has to know something already that didn't get resolved that's really cool and important, or you have to invent something bigger and badder. So like if you beat the village bad guy, well then there's a world bad guy or something, which is a little more obvious, but you have to make it really tie in well. Because I thought about that with my campaign a little bit, like the second portion. I was like, how do I make that meaningful? Because otherwise it's just a tacked on DLC. So. And I don't know. I mean, how do you get bigger than Lavos across all time and space? Like, it's just hard to. I don't know. And Chrono, like, coming back to life and, I don't know, resolving the whole story.
Yeah, it definitely ended on a narrative high note.
So what's the next retro game?
Well, Earthbound and Final Fantasy VI both scored the next highest on the vote. So what do you guys prefer?
Man, they're both so good. But Jeremiah, you never finished Earthbound, did you?
I never finished it. I never finished FF6 either. So both of them I love, but it doesn't translate. It's like Chrono Trigger. I got bored in the middle again. I hate to say it, but it's true. I mean, I love the story. I had a lot of like revisitations of great moments, but there's still portions where like I'm just like, I feel like I have to play it. And part of that is, context. It's like, oh, I need to do this before we record the next episode. And once you have to do something, it becomes less fun and it becomes more punishment. But
I wonder if there's a way where we could like save or share our save file like through email or whatnot, and like let another person play it like on their stream. We all just like get in TeamSpeak or Hangouts and just like play it together. Because I would totally do that.
That'd be
awesome.
Like swap off. We'll talk about it after the episode, but I would really like to do that.
So in closing, what was your favorite moment playing Chrono Trigger? Like, is there some kind of? For me, it was when I was a kid, and I had a cassette, one of those handheld cassette players that you would record interviews on, and I would record every sound, this before the soundtrack was even out. And I just recorded all the songs. I remember getting to the end of it, the Millennial Fair, like bum 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 bada bum 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 bada bum, like the little like Moonlight Serenade thing. I record all the credits music, and I would just go to sleep listening to that soundtrack as a junior high kid. It was just one of my best memories growing up, is just trying to capture all the music from that game onto a cassette tape.
Anything and everything to do with Frog. Like, he was the ultimate dark hero, which is what I was into at the time. Like, he had a big-ass sword, like, life is shit on him, but he was still walking around being the, like, total good guy, and just kind of soldiering through and I love Frog. When I stream the game, I have a little gif of Frog just shaking his head at everything. He's my favorite.
He does not approve. I like the honestly, one of the coolest moments in that game, and I hate to be so stupid, but in the very beginning, where it's character defining, it's badass, and it sets this tone for the entire game. When the pendant flies, or when she flies in there and gets sucked away, and then all of a sudden Chrono, that his music pops up, and he just leaps in without saying anything. That's just, every time I do it, I go, fuck yes. I did this to him too. I was playing alone in my room all by myself, and I just said, fuck yeah. Like, I just love that part. But I also love like with Frog, whenever you go through time and fucking space to get this bastard off of his ass. But when you finally do, you're like, dude, bro, I went back in like 65,000 BC to get this fucking stone, and then I had to like make this other dude forge this. And oh, he's a guru, for God's sakes. Will you please come with me? And he's like, let's do this. And then like his music pops up, and I was like, yes, like it's this cool moment. But those moments were cool. I think were probably my favorite parts. Besides fighting Specchio, of course.
Yes.
Maybe I'm biased, but that just makes me think about how much the music defines the game. Like you talk about when Chrono, like the very beginning of the game that sucks you in with the hook, when Chrono picks up the pendant and just goes full on hero mode, the music is what sells the scene. Fighting Specchio, the music is what sells it, and that's where a lot of your nostalgia comes in. And you just talk about Frog, you even said it, like his music comes up and it's the total hero's theme you associate with that character. Like,
yeah, and how about when you fight
so great?
How about when you fight Lavos and it just like normally you've got this badass music going and then it's just like almost eerily quiet. Like that was creepy. It's like boom, like it's a real slow. It's almost like Metroid does on their final levels. It's fucking creepy.
Yeah,
It
because it
just-
was
it
so
makes it
epic
seem-
before that, with like Lavos'
Yeah.
theme and the ba da 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 da. It's like going nuts, and then like quiet. Now what's happening?
Yeah. Oh god, it's creepy.
Tim, what was yours?
Oh, man, I don't know. For me, I think you guys called it. The music just makes every scene amazing. That's what ties it all together. The epilogue to Faraway Times, like seeing how everyone's little story just resolves to that music is probably the best part for me. But I gotta say what Jeremiah said about that part where you grab the pennant and you just go through the portal to get the job done. That is incredible. That really kicks the game off. I'm like, oh man, it's go time.
Do you want to know what's so awesome about To Faraway Times? Now that I think about it. Okay, so music that ascends, that goes higher and higher, delineates success. And if you want it to make it sound epic, you increase the volume as you go higher. That's why all big ass opera arias like everything is like it
John
ascends
Williams.
high and then ends loud, right? But To Faraway Times, that's the only song that's really got kind of a driving feel to it that as it ascends doesn't get louder. And not only that, in like the battle music where it's ascending to have an epic feel, the cadences are not pure chords. There's other notes sparkled in so that you don't get like this just this round, completely resolved feeling at the cadences in the music. But in Faraway Times, all the chords are 100% pure. They're tertiary chords, just 1, 2, 3. And it's the first time in the game it does that. And so it really gives you this feeling of like, oh, everything's resolved and we're just going through the stories. And that's not an accident.
It's freaking genius. Love it.
Yeah, the story was genius. The music was genius. Just one of the greatest games of all time.
So why does Chrono Trigger win? And whenever people talk about the greatest RPGs list, you always see this one pop up on the top. Is it just nostalgia? Is it rose-colored glasses? Does it hold up now that you've played it in 2015? Like, why do you think it keeps showing up, or is it overrated?
It's a little bit of everything. It's certainly not rose-colored glasses. I mean, at the time, it was revolutionary. There's a reason people think Final Fantasy VI, Chrono Trigger, 2 the best games of all times. The only limitation on it was the hardware at the time. The story was one of the best stories ever. The innovation was some of the best innovation we've seen in an RPG, and of course, the music is one of the greatest soundtracks ever. So, no, it's definitely not overrated. Does it hold up nowadays? I think if it did completely, we wouldn't be wanting a remake with better graphics. We can do so much more now that gives this great story, great music, great characters, the appearance and kind of paint that it deserves. And then, of course, nostalgia. How many times we all pile in the same house playing through this game, exploring Zeal. Yeah, everything reminds us of our childhood. But does that take away from the game? Absolutely not. It's still one of the greatest ever.
I was actually going to ask that question in a different way of asking, like if they remade the game in a modern sensibility and made it with the 3D graphics or whatever you need, like pretend it's a AAA title of today, maybe even like a Arkham Asylum or Arkham City type, third person. I don't care. However you fantasize about it, however it look like. I wonder if it would still hold up. My notion is that I would have changed a couple things about the narrative, being someone who's interested in storytelling but not very good at it. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but there's a couple things I would have changed, I think.
Yeah, honestly, if it got a graphical... Oh, sorry, go ahead, Tim.
Oh, no, it's fine. No, I was going to say that's the crux of the issue is what would they change, if anything, because when this game was developed, it was the Dream Team, right, David? I mean, these were developers who were the best of the best. So if they change something now, would it make it better or would it make it worse?
Yeah, I've been playing this game along with a lot of the AAA titles from 2014 over the summer, and there's just something I really liked about going back to this and not having to worry about the clutter of pointless side quests, of collectibles, of, there was just enough stuff to fill in a good. I think I spent overall 30 hours on this game because I went through it again with the New Game Plus and got all the endings, and I didn't feel like any of it was disrespectful to my time. Like, I felt like everything I was doing was something that was fun to do. I wasn't trying to collect Riddler trophies or Assassin Animus polygons or, fragments.
There was nothing put in there just to make you sink more time into the game.
Filler, yeah.
Yeah, like
Well-
I might brush up, I might polish like the Tyranno layer or the
Reptile,
breaking out of
yeah.
Dalton, but like overall, like it was just refreshing to look at a map and not just get overwhelmed by like Assassin's Creed Unity or Batman Arkham City or something where it's just like there's this many things to do, have fun, it's play value.
Yeah, and what's more nowadays, I find, since we have all this back in the day we had 8-bit music. Now we can actually put scored or orchestra pieces into a game. The graphics are amazing, but I find now that we can do that. Games, just the innovation has fallen. Like where we're not doing a whole lot of new things in most of the games that are coming out now. Like back in the day, like they really had to develop the characters well and write these amazing stories because they had all these difficulties with the hardware. So if you took something from that time and supplanted it today with better graphics, I think it would actually carry over better compared to what we're doing nowadays. Because I don't think, in a lot of ways, we've improved in all of the things that make a game great.
I don't know. Some modern games have gotten better at storytelling. Like The Last of Us, I feel like tells a much tighter story.
That's true.
Yeah, I think
there
I
are
would have
exceptions.
There was parts that I was thinking about this as I was going through. I was like, how would I improve this? Because I want to give it a good objective view of this game. And I think some of the things, me being like a DM or something, I would have broken some more time and done a little more character development. Not that it didn't have that, it did, especially for the time. But I think I would have more interactions, a couple more down moments, a couple more moments of like reflection,
moments like where they're around the campfire after Luca's like little side quest, where they're just talking about like, what is this going on? What do you think? Why do you think we're doing this? What's this all about?
Motivations, exactly.
Because you're just saying that, and I was like, Final Fantasy VI did that. They really developed all the characters pretty well. So like, I would totally do an episode like, which game did it better, Final Fantasy VI or Chrono Trigger, and just go through a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, we
would be so half
next
down with that. I'd be so half down with that.
So speaking of music, before we finish up, I want to let everyone know that there is something called the Chrono Symphonic Project, where somebody actually went through and they did symphonic arrangements of a lot of the soundtracks. Like it's not just covers of the soundtracks, but they're blending things together. They're taking Frog's theme and mixing with Guardia Castle's theme and just making this entire symphony for a game that was never made. So if you want to check that out, go to YouTube, type in Chrono Symphonic, and you can kind of listen to orchestrated versions of some of your favorite tracks.
Awesome.
All right. Well, this was a hoot, guys.
Yes. First book club successful.
Yeah.
So let us know what you guys thought on the Facebook group. Let us know if you want to do another book club, which game you'd like to do, and what kind of schedule we'll do. We'll probably do, if we do another one, we'll probably just spend the rest of the summer on it, like do a 2-month reading schedule so it's less hectic.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Like we got a little over-ambitious, but I wanted to see if we could do it in a month, and I had fun.
That
was worth it. But cool. All right, I think that wraps us up, guys. Thanks a lot, Tim and JT, for coming on. Thanks for lending your expertise and your awesome opinions.
Absolutely.
You guys rock. And hopefully everyone got a lot out of that. Let us know what you guys think, like he said, on our Facebook page or through email, theGameTheoryPodcast@gmail.com. But until then, this is a bonus episode, so you guys can wait till Sunday, and you'll get a regular one as well. So, see you guys. Thanks for joining us for another episode. Bye.